On the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting local insight after every game. You can't get it anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So down 2 starters on the road, Hawks were able to still get it done. We'll download on the turning point that got them there. But first, let's talk takes on how the Hawks came back from a 14-point deficit to get the 111-107 win on the road over the Orlando Magic. So Tate, you said your take was that the Hawks got help.
That they did. And of course, I think it's so easy a lot of times for everybody look at this thing glass half full and all this optimism and positivity, which you give them credit for fighting back in a game that I personally feel like they shouldn't have never been fighting back in to begin with all the miscues and the sloppiness that, Orlando had going for themselves, throughout the duration of the game. But it's because the Atlanta Hawks also were equally being sloppy, which I understand some of these things are kind of what you have to anticipate being this early in the season. Sure. Just kind of getting their legs under them, getting up to NBA game speed, things of that nature. But because of Orlando's inability to shoot efficiently from the free throw line, yes, we're having conversations about someone other than the Atlanta Hawks not shooting well from the free throw line, just 64%, just below 65 for Orlando. All of the turnovers, 20 plus for them throughout this game. I don't think that helped them a ton. They didn't shoot well from 3 either. And then they went down a smidgen. I know that, shooting almost 47% from the field is not a terrible thing. But based on the fact that the first 3 quarters, Orlando was shooting nearly 60%, sounds similar to Toronto just a couple of nights ago, because that dwindled a little bit in the fourth quarter. Credit to the Hawks defense, I think helped out the Hawks quite a bit too.
Yeah, because if you think about it, going back, and as you mentioned, 64% from the free throw line is typically going to dead you any night, but it was really necessary tonight because the Orlando Magic really started this game off hot. Like from that 3-point line, they were 100% in the first quarter. And that was a little bit scary because, of course, we talked about the lack of perimeter defense that we saw on opening night, right? And then you go to the second quarter and that number drops drastically to 37.5% for Orlando. And then it just continues to drop. And like you, I would like to give the Hawks a little bit of credit for that, because in the third quarter, they're down to 25%. And then you don't allow them to make any 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. Most importantly, the final 3-pointer that Pablo Banchero just kind of heaved up there on a wing and a prayer, and it didn't
like
go
the way
down.
You rolled your R there. It sounded like you rolled the R. I didn't know you had that going.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. Like sometimes you get a little bit of help, especially if you are on a slow start. And we know that the Hawks had another one of those kind of slow starts, because it wasn't a bad first quarter, if you will. They definitely had a lead at some point, but ultimately speaking, it wasn't kind of the start that you wanted, especially from the perimeter, and especially both on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. But somehow, some way, the Hawks were able to really just stay the course. And I think that that's so important when, as you mentioned, we're talking about a team that it's only the second game in already. And I said this a couple nights ago on opening night. I told one of our colleagues, maybe we should just put some bubble wrap around Kristaps Porzingis, because, and thankfully it's not an injury. Thankfully he was just out due to flu-like symptoms. All good. Unfortunately, Zachary Reese-Shea, who was my third person who I wanted bubble wrap on, of course, Jalen Johnson being my number 1 person that I wanted bubble wrap on, but Zachary Reese-Shea, of course, and I'm sorry, for Kristaps Porzingis, it's flu-like symptoms. For Zachary Reese-Shea, unfortunately, he got hurt in that first game, sprained his ankle, so they were both out. So you got to give the Hawks a lot of credit for still, despite the help that they got from the Orlando Magic at the free throw line and them kind of fading down the stretch, give the Hawks a world of credit for still being able to pull it together. And part of the reason that they were able to pull it together in the absence of Porzingis was my take on the night, which is that the backup bigs, particularly the backup center minutes, they were really, really huge. I mean, there was one point early in the game where I know you didn't have it on your bingo card that Mouhamed Gueye would have 2 of the Hawks' first 3 made free throws, or threes rather, but happened and did. And that's the kind of night that the Hawks really were in need of from Mouhamed Gueye. So I have to start with Mo, because coming off of that bench and playing 30 minutes, going 5 of 9 and 2 of 5 from 3, 13 points, a plus 21, and just a little bit more time probably in the game, and we would have been talking double-double, because we're also talking about 8 boards from Mouhamed Gueye. I really, really liked what I saw out of him. And of course, the sub at the end by Quin Snyder to say, hey, Trae, got to take you out, got to put Mo in, because I need that defense to ensure that this game goes our way. And what does Mouhamed Gueye do? He goes and gets a defensive rebound to help in the game.
And that's what coaching is all about. You know, you're making those adjustments. We talked about the adjustments that it didn't appear that they made a couple of nights ago coming out of the half. And clearly adjustments that, you know, Coach Mosley for the Orlando Magic didn't make when it's down the stretch, a very important key possession in the game. Trae Young got the ball out on the perimeter on the island all by himself with Wendell Carter Jr. off of a switch. That just spells bad news for anybody that was wearing blue on tonight. And you know that I love when you show my boy Mouhamed Gueye some love. That's just another season under his belt. A little bit more experience. That kind of showed tonight based off of the games that he had participated in and started many of, I think all but 5 on last year, 28 out of 33 that was played. So I think we probably could have not been sweating bullets as often as we were, and or rather as early as I could just speak for myself, saying that I was, because when it came to the rotation in the front court and I saw N'Faly Dante out there fumbling the ball like he was playing football, and just seemed like he just had, you know, butter all over his fingers and just couldn't seem to hold on to the ball. I know sometimes, you know, Trae comes in with some of those tricky passes and what have you. He hasn't been playing with Trae very long, so I kind of get it, but you got to be ready in the moment. And he didn't appear to be, and that's when Coach Quin Snyder went ahead and made the adjustment, got the substitution, made the rotation look a little bit different. Insert Mouhamed Gueye, somebody with that experience who has played with Trae before. You start seeing all the world of the difference at that point.
You do. And other backup center, starting backup center, Onyeka Okongwu, because, man, there was a stretch where he had 5 points to put the Hawks up again. And so you give a world of credit for just being able to kind of stand in there in the absence of Porzingis and help this team get a big, big win. Again, heavy minutes from Onyeka Okongwu tonight. Onyeka played 33 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field, a 17-point night to go along with 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And this was important as well, and 3 blocks, of course. But there were moments in time where this entire team was struggling once again with foul trouble, and yet somehow he staved it off, sat with 5 fouls, and was still able to contribute. So you just, again, he was starting in the absence of Porzingis, but just the backup centers really played some excellent minutes.
I think so too, you know, and I think it was a little bit concerning for me from the front court position when I saw that N'Faly Dante wasn't playing that well, because remember, he had to play the minutes he did right out the gate because Onyeka Okongwu had came into the game in the first 2 minutes and picked up 2 fouls, and it just wasn't really making a lot of sense to me. And I started getting a little bit frustrated because, you know, the Atlanta Hawks was equally feel like they were turning the ball over as much as the Orlando Magic. I don't know your preference, whether it's blueberry, whether it's cherry, whether it's apple, but there was more than enough turnovers to go around for everybody. And something else that I thought was key, you know, the other night against Toronto, I thought that Trae just, I don't know, just didn't really seem aggressive enough to me. Maybe his approach to just the entire night, it just didn't feel right against some of those guys, but he needed to take advantage tonight, control the controllables, and take advantage against the guys you're supposed to. We know that Jalen Suggs can't guard him. We know that Desmond Bane can't guard him. We know that, you know, Tyus Jones can't guard him. Finally, we saw Trae step up and do what big superstar type players do, that's trying to make that big time money and land that big time contract. You got to take advantage. He finally did that in the wanting moments, and I think that that's the reason we saw the Hawks add a number to the left side of the result column.
Yeah, a run and then another and then a win. We'll tell you how they got there next. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, but every day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. So every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag, which is happening tonight thanks to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who dropped 55 last night, who the Hawks will actually see tomorrow night. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with DoorDash Pass, plus your shot at that big drop. So Dash Pass members only, 50% off to $10 a day after a 50-point game with promo code. Now, terms do apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. So if you use Game Time to grab seats for the Atlanta Hawks, trust, can't be any simpler. You can grab those seats in a matter of minutes, and you'll love what you see, and because it's what you pay. No hidden fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. So the Hawks improved to 500, 1-1 on the season, thanks to an amazing 111-107 win in Orlando against the Magic. But it really happened in two spates, and that was the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So, DeShaun, tonight we had a turning point A and a turning point B, because there were really two critical moments in this game that really turned the tide for the Hawks. Let's talk about maybe the biggest one. We'll call it turning point A, where you talk about Asa Newell entering the chat, gets his first NBA minutes, gets a couple buckets with Dyson Daniels kind of having one kind of in between there, if you will. Game tied at 6:33 in the fourth quarter, and that was a part of that Hawks 15-0 run that helped them to take the lead and help them to get the win. What did you see?
And not just any time, and not just any buckets, Tenitra, but big time buckets and big time moments in only your second NBA game being played ever in history, for you in your career. A dunk and a big time three as well.
Yeah.
Going to show, I think he just really displayed and showcased one of the reasons why a lot of people who have really watched Asa Newell and just are really excited to have him is because of the
Yeah,
versatility that he brings, because you
indeed.
see him being a high IQ type of player, very
Yes.
cerebral, especially for a player his size, makes really smart decisions. He kind of has a feel like he's ahead of the curve a little bit. I don't know. He
Mhm.
reminds me of a player that used to play here in Atlanta to a degree in terms of his IQ at such age and time, of when he was a Hawk, and that was Al Horford, a
Yeah.
guy who just really doesn't try and go out there, do anything that he's not confident that he could do. He's not going to run out there and try and do something that, he just practiced earlier and shoot around or anything like that. So I think that that was key. And then the other part is, like I said in the first segment, with the help that they got from Orlando's
Mhm.
3 turnovers down the stretch, I think really kind of helped Atlanta in the fourth quarter throughout the duration of that run. And if you pay really close attention, the guys that they continue to stop in the most critical moments.
Yes.
Sometimes your opposition isn't really having a great night, and then they happen to just get going at the same time that you're really, providing your biggest spark of the night and going on your
Mhm.
biggest run. That didn't happen with Wendell Carter Jr., who is, been there for quite some time. Paolo Banchero, their best player, they took the time to shut him down and make sure he didn't get it going when they were kind of going off tonight. So I think that those were just a few very important things that maybe won't get a lot of attention,
Yeah.
when it comes down to the big run that was the big turning point in the game.
Yeah, and then you see in that turning point, as you mentioned, the shutdown of their guys, their big three, if you will. Meanwhile, you see Trae Young heat up. In the beginning of the game, I don't know about you, but I thought to myself, hey, maybe DeShaun and I are going to end up talking about what do we think after 2 games, because Trae was having a slow start, and that was the conversation the entirety of the at least first third of last season. But I liked the way that he ended this game, and the fact that he totaled 11 points in the fourth quarter. But for me, it wasn't just the 11 points, right? It was actually the 1 rebound, and also him being able to get 2 dimes, because number one, that's what we talked about in the game a couple nights ago. There were too many opportunities, second chance point opportunities in the game Wednesday night. And I felt like that was a big reason that the Hawks lost the game, the home opener, the season opener, if you will. And there were moments in time where I felt like, especially in the first half of the game, that the Hawks really they were stagnated, right? I just didn't see enough assists, because this is a team that moves the ball. This is a team that tries to play with pace. So when I see a fourth quarter stat line like that for Trae Young, that's also very encouraging to me. But in addition to our turning point A, we had a turning point B as well, because you also got to go back to the Hawks cutting the deficit down to 4, because hey, they were right there, got the deficit down to 2, and then it ballooned back up, and you're thinking, uh-oh, there's that pesky third quarter, but not so fast, because with under a minute to close the third quarter, the Hawks found themselves going on a 13 to 4 run and cutting that deficit down to 4 points. And that was so critical, I think, DeShaun, to just really kind of get that momentum on the road, so that you're heading into that fourth quarter knowing, hey, we got a head full of steam and we have every opportunity to go back home with a win.
Well, you know what? And it felt different,
Yeah.
just being honest, than it did the other night. The other night, it felt like, you know what? I'm starting to think there's not a way that the Hawks are going to be able to come back and win this game. Even when it was early in the game, it just felt like
Mhm.
something wasn't right. That
Yeah.
wasn't the same feel as tonight. Tonight felt like if Orlando keeps playing like this and the Hawks just kind of, iron out a couple wrinkles and, tie up a couple loose ends and, tighten up on a couple loose screws, then they're going to find a way to be able to come back in this game and make it competitive. Now, whether they win or not, I don't know. That determines to be seen. But you had a good feeling that it was going to come down to, to maybe potentially even to the, very last moment, to the buzzer. So I was waiting for the Hawks to finally make me feel like, all right, they're awake, time to be competitive. They were
Yes.
far too much playing Aunt Betty basketball. Aunt Betty basketball is my Aunt Betty, who sits around, does nothing but watches the stories and sleeps all day pretty much, and sews up people's, clothes, hems up clothes. That's all that they were doing. It seems like was just in a snooze zone pretty much. So it was nice to see them be able to wake up and play Hawks basketball. And a lot of that started with Trae Young, as it should have.
Yeah, and a lot of that was just kind of edging out Orlando in statistical categories. I think that was so important as well, because there were just so many missed opportunities in that game against the Raptors because the Hawks were not, I mean, they really got outshined inside, right? The points in the paint far and away for the Raptors in their favor. Offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities for the Raptors in their favor. Tonight, we didn't see that. We saw the Hawks edge out in points in the paint. We saw points in the paint. We saw the Hawks really go toe-to-toe with the Magic in terms of offensive rebounds. And then, as you mentioned as well, yeah, the Hawks may have had 16 turnovers, if you will, but we're always looking to see what do you allow that other team to do. Only 13 points allowed by the Magic off those turnovers. So some areas where just making some tweaks here and there tonight meant the W that you saw. Now the Hawks have a time before them because they've got to get on the road, come home to face the world champion Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow night. The Hawks Postcast is the #1 place to hang out after every game. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you next time.